If I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I'd have a third of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome to the ETW Endtime Watchman News Network. We're loaded up today, Tuesday, May 15th, 2012. What a ride it's been. I was thinking today what a ride it's been since I started on any kind of airwaves. Whew. It's been July of 08. Other than going across the nation and speaking, yeah, I did that since 01, but as far as the airwaves go, July of 08, we're coming up on 4 years. 4 years. A lot of information in 4 years. And it's so good to be with you all today, let me tell you, on this Tuesday. I'm loaded up today. Loaded up today with information. Good to see all new guests in here, too, and those that are listening. We want to welcome you here. Now, I've been following a story. I've mentioned it briefly, but I've been following a story down in Georgia. Now, I want to bring it to your attention. It comes out of the Cordell Dispatch, and I spoke with Miss Peggy today from the Cordell Dispatch after I read the article, and I wanted to get some more information, and then I went to the Macon Telegraph. So I've got a little bit of good news to bring to you today in terms of some of the law enforcement being caught in their acts and being in the process of being prosecuted. So Cordell Dispatch, title of it is Superseding Indictment Brought Against Wilcox Sheriff and Others. And let me go ahead and say this at the outset that I know this guy, okay? I know the sheriff that the indictments are brought against, and I got to tell you, there's a lot of injustice been going on in that little old bitty county for a long time, and I'm happy to see that some things are being brought to the forefront. Now, I want to bring you this story today out of the Cordell Dispatch. Washington, D.C., the Justice Department, along with the U.S. Attorney Michael J. Moore, Middle District of Georgia, announced Monday that a grand jury has returned a superseding indictment against former Wilcox County Sheriff Stacy Bloodworth, his son Austin Bloodworth, former Wilcox County Jailer Casey Jones. Now, let me stop. Let me stop right there before I go any further. A superseding indictment means this, that the indictments that were brought up to start with by the grand jury are going to be sent to trial, but there has been 2 more indictments added to it. So in other words, there's a superseding indictment charges defendants with assaulting 3 different inmates in the Wilcox County Jail on July 23, 2009, thereby violating their civil rights. In other words, they beat them. Okay, here we go with more law enforcement brutality. I got to get to some more news, but I got to cover this, okay? Now, as a result of the assaults, 1 inmate suffered a broken jaw. The 2 other inmates sustained bruises and scratches. The indictment also charged defendants with conspiring to cover up the assaults. Now, let me tell you how it goes on daily. Again, not all people that work as peace officers are bad. Again, I say that. But I had a conversation this morning with somebody, and I got to tell you something. Those that didn't do the beating, if they try to cover up the beating, are just as guilty as the ones that did the beating. Let there be no mistake about it, okay? Now, let's move on. Okay. It says, in addition, Stacy Bloodworth and Austin Bloodworth were charged with lying to the FBI. See, well, let me just read on. While Owens was charged with writing a false report about the incident. This goes on daily. This is not only here at the Wilcox County Sheriff's Department. This is daily at multiple metropolitan police stations all over this nation. It goes on. And not everybody's involved with it that wears the badge. But a lot of them turn a blind eye when they know what's going on. And that puts them just as guilty as the one that had the club or that had the taser or whatever, okay? Let's just be straight. And once we see if we'll ever get to begin to think in some of the intelligence that the Creator gave us and this great minds that He gave us, then we'll understand that, wait a minute, they may not have fired the shot. They may not have fired the taser, but they stood there and willingly let it happen. So therefore, they are an accessory to the brutality. Okay? We got to understand this. They are an accessory to the brutality. But it goes on, and I'll rehash this paragraph. In addition, Stacey Bloodworth and Austin Bloodworth were charged with lying to the FBI, while Owens was charged with filing a false report about the incident. Okay? Now, let me talk to you. Okay? Stacey Bloodworth was charged with tampering with one of the victims as well as 2 witnesses. Now, see, here's the thing. With the tampering and everything going on that they were doing, okay, they knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that guess what? That their butt was grass, and if somebody got a hold of this that was outside of that department, that guess what? The people, the independent people become the snapper lawnmower, okay? And they're going to mow their aspirin bottles down. And that's what's happening, and I'm glad of it, okay? To this point, up to this point as I've been following, I'm glad to see that some semblance of justice may be going to take place in this particular place, okay? Now, let's move on. It says that in addition to the civil rights and obstruction of justice charges stemming from the assault that took place July the 23rd of 2009, superseding indictment also charges Stacey Bloodworth with violating the civil rights of individuals of 2 other occasions. So in other words, let me go back. There was a 13-count indictment. You can go back and look up the history of this, okay, that was brought against them. Now, guess what? Now there's 2 more to be brought because, see, here's the thing. Here's what happened in a nutshell, okay? All of the victims were black. Listen to me. Yeah, Endtime's racial. When I covered the black stuff about the blacks doing this and talking about the whites, Endtime's racial. Now here I am covering white sheriff and white son beating the living daylights out of black people. Now see, I'm not racial, okay? But in any event, let me move on. Here we have multiple upon multiple cases of police brutality or sheriff brutality, whatever you want to call it. And the fact of the business remains, unless this one guy that got took to the hospital, the black guy that got took to the hospital, he immediately contacted a civil rights attorney. So we do see that sometimes civil rights attorneys, they do good, okay? We absolutely have to believe that, okay? So, having said that, the civil charges carry a maximum penalty of 10 years for each count. And I believe there was 13 counts altogether, 13-count indictment, okay? Additionally, Stacey Bloodworth faces a maximum penalty of 20 years for each count of witness tampering, while Owens faces a maximum penalty of 20 years for his writing a false report. Now, let's move on. Okay, a prior incident, which was unsealed on February 17, 2012, charged Stacey Bloodworth, Austin Bloodworth, Owens, and former Wilcox County Jail trustee Willie James Carruthers with civil rights violations in connection with the July 23, 2009 assault of 3 inmates, with conspiring to cover up the assaults, with committing various obstructions of justice offenses. A daily thing that takes place, I reiterate to you people, a daily thing. What you can do is you can hope and pray that if you do get stopped for a minor traffic infraction, you better hope and you better pray that the guy's having a good day, that the guy's feeling good about everything, that the guy ain't pissed off at his wife and the world, and that everything's going good that day, because if it ain't, you don't know what's happening next. And all I'm doing is basing this on the facts and the videos that we have so far, okay? So let's move on. Now, it says that on April the 4th, 2012, defendant Carruthers pleaded guilty to acting with several others. See, you got folks turning on them now. See, you got the trustee, the jail trustee, Willie James, and I know him also. I absolutely know him. With pleading guilty, okay, and acting with several others, including law enforcement, to assault an inmate in the Wilcox County Jail on July 23rd. Carruthers also pleaded guilty to conspiring to tamper with a witness in connection with the assault. It's the same thing over and over and over. Carruthers further admitted he was present with several individuals, including then Sheriff Bloodworth, with assaulting inmates KF and TO, causing them sustaining bruises, scratches, and pain. Carruthers further admitted he conspired with several other people, including them to cover up the fact that law enforcement officials and others used excessive force against the inmates. See, here's the thing. Let me go ahead and read on. Carruthers acknowledged that the plan of the conspiracy was for the co-conspirators to prepare false reports and submit them to the sheriff's office and to make statements consistent with those false reports to anyone inquiring about the excessive force. See, they got their stories together. You understand? They all got their lies together, and they all met together, and they said, this is the way it's going to be, and everybody in this code that we have, in this, including jail trustees, why do you think they become trustees? Hey, play the game with us, boy. This is our turf. Play the game with us, boy, and we'll give you some privileges. So he played the game with them, and then they had him to play the game of lies, and guess what? Carruthers began to have a conscience, and he began to turn on the evil, sadistic animals that beat the guys, and this is how it all began to come together. Don't you see? Let's move on. Now, okay, when Carruthers is sentenced, he faces a maximum penalty of up to 10 years on the civil rights violation, a maximum penalty to 5 years on conspiracy charge. Now, on March 15th, listen to this, it gets even deeper. On March 15th, former South Central Georgia Drug Task Force agent Timothy King Jr. pleaded guilty to a bill of information charging him with conspiring to tamper. Conspiring to do what? Conspiring to tamper with a witness in connection with the July 23rd assaults. Oh, yeah. See, not only do we have the Sheriff's Department, not only do we have the inmate trustees, but now we got the South Georgia Drug Task Force involved with the cover-up. Drink of water on that one. Now, during the plea hearing of the South Georgia Drug Task Force agent, King admitted that he conspired with several other people, including law enforcement officials, to cover up the fact that law enforcement officials and others had used excessive force against 3 inmates. When King is sentenced, he faces a penalty of up to 5 years. Okay? Now, let me go ahead and put this final note on here. The case was investigated by the FBI and is being prosecuted by Senior Litigation Counsel Gerald V. Hogan and trial attorney Christine M. Scardy, the Justice Department Civil Rights Division Assistant United States Attorney Paul Common III of the U.S. Attorney's Office of the Middle District of Georgia. So here we have a little bit of justice in the works on that case. Now, I'm glad to be able to report that today because, like I said, I know them. I'm older than every one of them, and I know them. That's right. And I knew of it for years. Nobody would do nothing about it. Now something's being done about it. Praise the living Creator. Now, let's move on. I got to get quickly here to some more stories. Now, let's talk. I would get to the Kelly Thomas today, but I don't have time. I'm sure Wires is following that closely, and so am I. But let me get, investigator delivers his findings and all that about Kelly Thomas, so I won't get to that. But I want to talk to you about a radio show host for a minute, and her name is Laura Ingraham. Just quickly, briefly, in the past you see all these right-wing or conservative talk show hosts reporting, yeah, security's great, we need it. Security's great, just like the little Sean Hannity, let not your heart be troubled, and we need to give up freedom for security, and Laura Ingraham and her Catholic religion believes that, yes, we need to give up freedom for security. Well, she saw firsthand, and she spoke with Fox News about it, but she saw firsthand the heartbreaking scene at the BWI airport in Baltimore this past weekend where a double amputee war veteran was subjected to an invasive pat-down by the TSA screeners. Here we have another rape of another individual by TSA thugs. You see, here we have another rape by another bunch of TSA thugs. And see, it appears that now that when you let wild animals out of a cage, they run out of control. They bite, they devour,